Welcome back to Luke Blues Talking. Joining me tonight is Lawrence Nelson and a special guest, possibly the worst ever edition of Guess Who, but we'll go through it anyway. Lawrence, would you like to is interrogate too strong a word for our special guest?
Yeah, I don't know what could I possibly ask him to winkle out an answer there. Where are you from?
Not Dundradit,
Which part of Lanarkshire do you stay in?
the posh part.
That narrows it down. Hmm, I don't know. What's the name of your good lady wife?
The gaffer.
I give in. I've got no idea who it
No,
is. Absolutely not a clue.
One guess?
Um, John Beaton.
No,
is it Scooby Blue?
On his day,
no.
maybe.
I'll
Yeah.
have to tell you. Ha
Who is it? Oh my God.
I
The
just thought
madness is finally kicked in, Cameron.
I thought I'd join my ultra friends. I think it was warm in that, I'll tell you.
Of course, it was Brian Martin. This week, unfortunately, we will be looking back at defeats to Edinburgh City and Dumbarton, but hopefully looking forward to a win against East Kilbride. If we start on Saturday, first of all, Lawrence, any complaints with the result?
Absolutely no complaints with the result. Brian and I were having our usual moan groan about the refereeing standards, but let's stick absolutely to the point that no matter what the referee did on Saturday, Stranraer contrived to suffer our worst defeat of the season. We will come on to Tuesday night, but my goodness, if you weren't at Tuesday night's game, Saturday was even worse. Tuesday there were signs of improvement, but in answer to your question, Cameron, absolutely no complaints about the outcome on Saturday.
I don't imagine, Brian, that you're going to deviate too much from that. Echo what Lawrence said there.
Probably one of the poorest performances I think we've seen one of Tiff's teams playing. I think I said it online. It was the first time we conceded 4 goals under Tiff in 56 games. It was really unlike us. Probably the first goal was a lovely goal for Lawson, but that probably unsettled us, changed the game plan completely because we had to try and chase that goal. And probably we got a lifeline at the end of the first half, but the second half was quite a non-event. Probably they scored against a run of play, but quite a poor performance, I thought.
Sticking with the opening goal, Brian, I imagine managers, there'll always be things that they look at that they think, oh, we could have done this or we could have done that. But the strike itself, is that just one you've got to kind of just step back and say it's a brilliant strike?
Yeah, he gave Max Carey absolutely no chance, and it landed absolutely perfect for him. You could see it on the highlights. This bounced absolutely perfect. And he can do that, Lawson. I think he done it against Stair Park or the Lime Stadium as they call it nowadays. Earlier on this season, so he's got that in him. And as I say, that just started the bad day, and we'll probably come out the second goal shortly, but that was even worse defending. The first, I don't think you can do much about.
We're saying how poor we were, but I guess it's kind of fine lines. If this happens, then it changes the entire game. Mark Weir had a brilliant save from Aaron Quigg Lawrence at 1-0. As I say, if that goes in, it changes the game. I totally hold my hands up. It didn't. As you said, better team won on the day. But if that had gone in, who knows?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I get that. And every defeat you'll have us casting around saying, but what if this had happened? Other teams that have lost us will be saying the same. Yeah, Brian and I both actually thought that Quiggy had scored on Saturday. The reaction was there. That's a goal. Oh, what a save. Um, in reality, we probably didn't test Mark Weir enough. And when it came to the bit, it was a terrific reaction save from him. Kept Quiggy out and to be honest, we didn't really do enough apart from that until late on in the game. Yeah, we came out after half time. I don't want to miss out the second goal that we conceded, but to be honest, at 2-1, you've really got to come out after the interval and push on. And we kind of did, but kind of wasn't enough. There didn't feel like that concerted, right, we're going to turn this game around. But no, you're absolutely right. If Aaron Quigg's goal had, if the ball had gone a few inches to the right, a few inches to the left, or if Weir just hadn't reacted quickly enough, it could have made for an entirely different outcome.
Terrific reaction save, said Lawrence. Brian, would you go along with that, or should Aaron be scoring?
Well, anyway, apart from where he hit it, but it's a fantastic save. It really was. I mean, I think I think Arne thought it was in as well. And I thought, oh, it's a goal all day long. But what a save by Mark Weir. That kept it to 1-1. As you said, Carmy, it could have changed the game if that goes in, but it didn't. So we were left with the 1-0 deficit.
You highlighted it, Brian, so I'll come back to you just now. In terms of the second goal, we're saying about the first, wonderful strike, not much you can do. The second, probably the other end of the scale, unfortunately, that we've just got to defend it better, I guess.
Yeah, I said in commentary, Lewis Reed was having a go at his fellow defenders, and I said to him after the game, why were you having a go at him? He says, well, he was the weakest man in the park, and he's managed to header it, into the goal. It's really poor defending. I mean, there was two in the back post. There's no way he should have got up and scored there. And I don't think Mark's carried any chance. That kind of kills the game a wee bit. I know we get back into it, but it's a real. I mean, and it's something we weren't doing a month ago, conceding goals like that. And it's really poor defending.
A bit like Cleland's goal against Spartans, I think it was, where
Yeah,
you head it back across the keeper. And it's one of those where it doesn't look like there's any great power in it, and it seems to take an age to go in, but there's just absolutely
yeah.
nothing you can do.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's even worse. I think Clellan was even smaller than the guy who scored on Saturday. But that's true. I mean, these type of goals shouldn't again. But I suppose, as I say, a month ago it wouldn't have happened. But just the way things are going against Stranraer at the moment.
So we get the goal back before half time, Lawrence. As you kind of mentioned there, you anticipate kind of game on. You want to kind of start the second half on top. We huffed and puffed without really doing anything. I think Darren had a couple of chances. Daniel McManus put one over, but I don't think any of them were massively worked. Mark Weir.
Nah, Darren arguably had to score that one that he just needed a glancing header into the net. I think I said in commentary, it's easy for us to say at the side, and obviously it is, but that one had to go in, or Danny McManus's one had to go in to spark the comeback. Yeah, we were the better side coming out after half time for a brief period. Brian said their third goal came against the run of play. I won't argue with either of those statements, but in truth, we had a couple of kind of half-hearted chances that didn't trouble Mark Weir. That they both went over the bar ultimately. And again, you're back to what if, same as Quiggy's in the first half. One of those goes in, it's 2-2, and it really is game on. But the fact is, they didn't go in, and then well, to be honest, we imploded at the back again for the third one.
The third goal, Brian, at the time, it didn't look particularly great. I think watching it back, we're probably 3, 4 yards from their corner flag. It gets cleared. Chris McQueen helps it on, a 1-2, and then they're through on goal and score. A dreadful goal to concede on kind of multiple levels, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we were committing bodies forward. You're always in danger of that. You're looking for the equaliser. And as you say, a couple of passes, and I thought the boy took it
He
well.
did.
I mean, fair play to him. He showed a bit of pace. He doing the far side, and he slotted away well. But I mean, you're always in danger, as I say. I mean, if it's one each, you probably don't concede that type of goal. But when it's 2-1, when you're 2-1 down, you're chasing. And as I say, you're committing men forward, and you're always in the risk. Them breaking away, and they scored that third. And that Lawrence said at the time that probably kills it, and I think he was right. I tend to say at the time, well, maybe no, but I think he was right. That finished the game, I think.
You tell me if I'm being harsh here, Lawrence, but obviously, as you say, there's the 1-2, gets beyond BJ Call. I think it's Joe McGrath in the middle. Could he have kind of gone towards the striker? He seems to kind of almost stay central, as if there's nobody else up with them. The ball's not going to get played across for somebody else to try to tap in. Could he have gone across to the striker, or am I being a bit harsh?
There's a bit of me thinks you're being a bit harsh, but only because I think he wasn't the only person to blame there.
Yeah.
We didn't cover ourselves in glory out on that from where we were watching at that right wing of the pitch.
Mhm.
I think was it BJ missed a header, and then now the worst actual thing about that whole goal was the fact that is it Iser Ryan scored. When I read that name out at the start on the subs bench, I thought, hope to God they don't bring him on. So I'm not sure how to pronounce it. That was the worst aspect of it for me. But I think BJ lost a header, and then the big guy set off, and BJ just couldn't match him for pace. And that's no huge slur on BJ. The guy had momentum going. He was coming from behind, couldn't catch him. You're probably right. McGrath probably could have gone across a bit. It was just a wee bit. Keystone Cop sounds horribly harsh, but it was just a wee bit not good enough from start to finish. The move, as you say, it started off with us up near their corner flag and ended up with the guy hammering home a brilliant goal from his point of view.
It was a goal, Lawrence, I think Brian kind of referenced there, that when it went in, you felt the referee could have blown for full time. It was going to take something very special for us to come back into it.
Yeah. Referee could have blown for full time. Obviously, there was another goal. There was a red card that came after that. Um, Edinburgh City indulged in some absolute heroic game management, if you look at it one way, time wasting if you look at it the other way. Referee was oblivious to the whole thing, which just really rubbed into our angry wounds, if you like, as the game wore on and on and on. But aye, at 3-1, it was game over. Game over. It's a bit like we'll come on to Dumbarton in a minute, but when it went to two, you're like, it's a hell of an uphill
Mhm.
battle now. At least with time on our side at Dumbarton. When Edinburgh City got the third, you're like, we've had chances, we're not taking them. It's not going to happen today. Let's move on.
Now, we spoke about this last week, so I'll stick with you, Lawrence, for this one. We spoke about the handball rule and the irritations that it can cause, I guess. Thoughts on the penalty? Obviously, where we are, or where we were, sorry, watching it from not the best angle, had time to watch it back. Any complaints? Do you think it's harsh? Is it on the soft side?
I still honestly don't know. One of the drawbacks of watching at Meadowbank is you're far away from the pitch as it is. We were also where we were standing. I think we're probably almost level with the front of the Edinburgh City penalty box in the second half. This incident took place probably 80, 90 yards away, and a packed goal mouth. Fair play to George. He's zoomed in. He's got the angles behind the goal. I still find it hard to tell. It does though look to me as if it hit Lewis Reed up here, and you can see him saying that to the referee. And to me, that's a funny place for your hand. I know, lower down the arm, it's fair game for a referee. So sounds as if we're moaning about it every week, but I'm still never happy with somebody blasting the ball at you.
Mhm.
And I think it's fair enough if you're a defender on the goal line and you deny the ball going in with your arm. But that ball was blasted at Lewis Reed, um, relatively close range. Couldn't do much about it. I still take some convincing that it was a handball. Frankly, it made no difference to the result, though.
I think that's the key point. It needs stress. That isn't sour grapes in our point of
Aye,
view. Edinburgh City
exactly.
deserved their win. If the penalty hadn't been given, I don't think any of the three of us are suggesting we would have gone up the park and won
Nope.
4-3.
Nope.
Your thoughts on the penalty, Brian?
Yeah, I think when the Edinburgh City players all appeal for it, the referee was always going to give it because he gave them everything all day. So he wasn't going to refuse their appeal for a penalty. I don't know if it was a penalty. Very, very, I thought it was very harsh again. But Big Grady said after the game it wasn't a penalty. Going by the highlights, I mean, I've seen them given, I've seen them not given. So as Lawrence says, it's either way. But I thought with the referee, I'm not starting the referee again, but I thought he was very, very soft with it. He gave a free kick. I think Stranraer's total foul count was 18. I mean, how he managed to get 18 fouls out of Stranraer players, I'll never know. I mean, every tackle. I'm going to rant again, but every tackle,
Yep.
Edinburgh City player, especially in the second half, it's so frustrating. I know they're very good at it, and they've done it at Stair Park as well. they're very good at management, game management or time wasting and old money as I would call it. And they're very, very good at it. And they're a young team, but they know how to waste time, and it was just so stop-start in the second half, and it was so frustrating. But if you're getting away with it, do it. Because I mean, I think he added on 4 minutes, Cammy. I mean, I keep on saying the guy against Spartans added on 9 minutes, and I didn't see much time wasting that game, but each referee to their own. We'll go on to it later on, but last night was even worse. But I think he was always going to get a penalty when they appealed it.
Cameron, can we have a rant about referees while we're on the subject? Let's get it out of the way. Peter Stewart on Saturday. Yeah, you can call it game management, you can call it time wasting, but when you've got the goalkeeper of Edinburgh City, the ball going out of play for a by kick, and there are actually balls sitting behind the goal, placed there ready for him to use, and he wanders past them to get the ball that the ball boy's playing about with 30 yards away, and the referee, Peter Stewart, is totally oblivious to it. That's what annoys me. It wasn't going to change the result. We were 4-1 down at the time, but it's just absolutely blatant game management. As Brian said, if the referee's letting you away with it, fair play, you'll do it. But it's the referee's job. It's not the goalkeeper's job to get the game back underway. Well, arguably it is, but you know what I mean. It's the referee's job to keep the rules. Dumbarton last night actually had an official behind the goal who, at one point when the ball went behind, kicked it away. I don't know who it was, but he had a black tracksuit on and orange boots. And to me, not rushing for the ball, letting your opponents get the ball is all fair game, but kicking the ball away should actually be a cautionable offence. But again, last night with a referee totally oblivious to it. Are we only moaning because we lost? Possibly, but these are the things that annoy football fans, and it's there are ways and means of prolonging a game or slowing a game down, but when it actually comes to somebody behind the goal booting the ball away to waste time, that's just it just leaves a nasty taste in the mouth, frankly. Anyway, rant over for now. I'll just say
I'll
it for
hold
now,
my
by the way.
from now. I'll hold my hands up in the sense that I think every team's guilty of it. I think when it's your team, you're probably not too fussed about it. There's an argument in terms of an entertainment spectacle, I guess. You obviously go along to the match to watch the football. You don't go along to watch time wasting or players falling over, etc. And I think there's probably stats out there that show you kind of out of the 90 minutes how long the ball's actually in play, and it's depressing stuff when you see it and it's kind of an hour rather than the full 90.
Yeah.
But as I say, I think if we were a goal up, or if we were in Dumbarton's situation, I would be. I might not be praising the team for doing it, but I would be totally understanding of why they were doing it. Brian, I don't know what the opposite of a cherry on the cake is, but in terms of Stranraer, the red card just kind of summed up our day in Edinburgh on Saturday. Take us through Jordan Stewart sending off.
I no complaints. I mean, Jordan was standing in front of us last night, and it was just a rush of the blood to the head. I mean, he's not played for 2 or 3 weeks. Just frustration on the wee man's part. You could see it when he rushed across. I says, "Oh, I don't do it, Jordan." You could see he was desperate, and this, as I say, frustration, and I think he's done it maybe once before this season. He just got to channel his emotion. As I say, to me, he's a great wee player. I'll not change my mind about that. I think he's a great wee player. He's been a fantastic find by Tiff from the west of Scotland. But as I say, you just got to channel his emotion a wee bit. I know it's quite an emotional game at times. You're 4-1 down. You've just come on. The team's getting pumped. It happens. But so he's got a 2-match ban. He was out last night. He'll miss the East Kilbride game and he's back for the Clyde game.
He's not the first, and he won't be the last, Lawrence. And it is just one of those human things, I guess, that it happens, and then probably within about 30 seconds, the mist lifts, and you kind of find yourself going, "Why did I do that?" You're probably walking back to the changing room and just thinking, "Why did I do that?"
Yeah, like Brian, I've no complaints about it. When I saw it at first from the angle, I thought Clear foul, clear yellow. Like to see it again. When I saw it again, no, it's a red. Can have absolutely no arguments about it. I loved the reaction of the boy, the big boy that scored the third goal, though. I thought he was trying to make World War III out of it. And let's be honest, the referee had spotted he was going to take action, so calm down, mate. No, I think it's just sheer frustration. Jordan's been out, he's just come on, we're 4-1 down. He had just lost the ball to an opponent. I think it was just absolute sheer frustration. I don't agree with the fan online the weekend who said he should never play for the club again, though. I think that's a bit of a rash reaction after a red card. Like Brian said, I actually think we've missed Jordan Stewart in the midfield. He's another option for us in the middle of the park. There was a game a couple of weeks ago where we thought that the midfield was a bit lightweight. It might have been the Elgin game, actually. And I thought Jordan Stewart could have made a difference there. Unfortunately, on Saturday, he came on late. We were already losing, so we didn't get a chance to see him making a difference. Now he sits out for 2 games. I'll be happy to see him back in contention in a couple of weeks. As Brian said, just screwed the nut a wee bit.
In terms of positives to take from Saturday, Sallu Turay returned and got some minutes. Lawrence spoke to him after the game.
Sal, the positive first, it was good to see you back on the pitch today at Meadowbank. It's been a full round, couple of rounds of fixtures since you went off at Meadowbank here. How did it feel to be playing again?
No, it felt amazing. It's been difficult. It's been a difficult 4 months. Like I said, not just physically, mentally as well. But obviously I've got good people around me, Gaffer, Custin, Nicole and stuff like that. They're helping me massively. So it's good to be back on the pitch. Obviously it's not the result we wanted, but we put that behind us now and we're on to a big game on Tuesday. So we go out there and hopefully get all 3 points.
You're jumping ahead, talking about the game today. Can I just go back slightly? And when you're out of action for as long as that, how difficult is it? Does it feel as if at some point, oh, I'm never getting back?
No, it does. It feels it's very, very difficult because, like, you're watching for the side and you want to be involved and you want to rush back early and you want to be training, you want to do stuff, but you can't. You need to just take your time and come back when your body tells you, right? So obviously, in the squad last week, got a few minutes today, so I'm getting up to speed and I'm feeling good each day. I'm feeling much better. I'm feeling fitter and stronger.
And we've been watching on from the side. It's a fair few weeks of even running. We're not seeing what's happening on a Tuesday night or Thursday. It's a fair few weeks of running before you even get near going on the pitch.
No, Coles have been running me massively. And I've done a lot of running and a lot of rehab before I came back. So even when I obviously redone it again, obviously I've done rehab and feeling good, feeling very cool.
When you went off at Meadowbank the last time, you were on a high. You actually just hit form. I'm guessing that was even more frustrating.
It was, especially when I obviously had a good day here. Last time we were up here, and then for it to happen the way it did was gutting. But like I said, it's football, happens. Injuries are going to happen. But I'm back now and ready to kick on.
Ready for business.
Yeah.
So you've been on the sideline for weeks. You've been watching the team having that unbeaten run. How much more frustrating is it that you actually get back on and we have a performance like today?
No, it's very, very frustrating. It's just one of them ones where you put it behind you and you always focus. For me, it's always focus on the next game. So we're focusing on Dumbarton. We've got we've got Dumbarton and we've got East Kilbride. So we've got 2 big games coming up. So all we have to do is put that behind us and focus on the next 2 games.
Yeah, and Tuesday nights, it's only a couple of days away. I'm guessing you're in the position now where you got a few minutes. You got, I don't know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes today. Yeah. So you're just hoping to gradually build on that and put yours in contention for a starting.
Yep, absolutely. Today was just to get minutes, get me back at running, which I felt good. Hopefully get a few more minutes on Tuesday, and then obviously see what happens for Saturday. But big focus is on Tuesday.
Sal, it's good to see you back. Despite the result today, good to see you back in action.
Thank you. Cheers. Thank you.
Lawrence, as was just said, you spoke to Sal after the game. I don't imagine it's too lengthy a list, but were there any other positives to take from Saturday?
The only other one off the top of my head was, and we didn't really mention it much, was Joe getting his first goal for the club. It must be annoying when you score your first goal. I suspect Joe has scored before for Hibs B, Hibs under 19s, Hibs whatever, but it's your first SPFL goal. It must be annoying when you score it and you're in the end of 4-1 defeat. So it's probably not one that Stranraer fans will remember in 10 years' time, but aye, that's a positive. And we were talking, George and I were talking at half-time on Saturday, there are very, very few Stranraer players now who have not hit the net this season. That's also got to be a positive, the fact that so many people can take a goal. And my God, Lewis Reeds is still trying hard to get that goal. He came close at Dumbarton on Tuesday, but Joe's goal and Sal being back is a positive. Jordan Stewart, I thought was going to be a positive, but we'll wait till he comes back in a couple of games' time.
I wasn't going to name any names there, Lawrence, when you said players that hadn't scored for the club yet this season. I wasn't going to name any names. You just dropped poor Lewis in it
He's
there.
not the only one, to be fair, but there are very few of them now. And my goodness, he plays his part in getting us goals and keeping goals out. So he knows I like a wee bit of a wind up. As I say again, Tuesday, he was one of a number of players who pulled off saves from the Dumbarton goalie.
I do wonder, Brian, just again from a personal point of view, and I appreciate Joe's goal was to make it 2-1, so it wasn't quite in this scenario. But as a player, as somebody growing up, obviously, you want to tick off those milestones of kind of first appearance and first goal. I always wonder in those situations, if your team is 4-5-0 down and you score your first goal, there must be part of you that wants to celebrate.
Yeah.
But equally, you know you're going to look a bit daft if you're going crazy whilst your team's getting thumped. It must be a kind of strange emotion at the time.
It definitely takes away from the moment, doesn't it? Scoring my first goal for a club. I mean, we're only 2-1 at that time, but
Yeah.
I think it's the usual. We get the ball out the net again and go back up the park. So we didn't really celebrate that much because it was just bringing us back into the game a wee bit. But I fair play to the big man. I mean, he was up and he was in the right place at the right time and scored his goal. So you can always say he scored his first goal for Stranraer.
As we mentioned as well, good to see Sal back. Brian, probably a player we've missed.
Yeah, he came on last night again. We'll go into that later on, and it's good to see him. I mean, he's not been shown much because he's not been on for long enough. And he'll get minutes as the more stronger he gets. I'm quite sure, and I'm quite sure Tiff will use him, in games to come. But it's good to see him back. And Robbie Foster was doing a bit of running. I don't know how far Robbie is off making his comeback, but he was doing a bit of running on Saturday as well, and last night as well. So it's good to see him back.
Just one last thing to touch on. I think I'm right in saying Saturday's trip to Meadowbank was Darren Lang's 100th game for the club.
All right.
So congratulations to Darren. Obviously, he took a massive step up, and I think it'd be fair to say from both parties, Lawrence, that it's paid off.
Aye, absolutely. He's really come on as a player. You see people slightly grumpily going on about, oh, Darren should have scored. He should have scored against Edinburgh City. He should have scored against Dumbarton on Tuesday night. But Darren has now put himself into a position, worked himself into a position now where we're expecting him to score. When I think back to when he got his first goal at Bonnyrigg, of all places, I'm pretty sure it was. He had just fairly newly come into the club. Look at him now in terms of physique, how lightweight he looked then compared with how he is now. I mean, Tuesday night, again, we'll come on to it, but he battled manfully against Mark Durnan, who looks about 5 times his size for the entire 90 minutes. So it's not an easy task at League 2 level. It's a physical old league.
I always think as well, and that this is, with all due respect to any striker in League 2, if they were scoring every chance that fans say they should have scored, they wouldn't be playing in League 2.
No.
Very true.
Somebody would snap them up.
Exactly. Drawing a line under Saturday, then we move on
Thank
to
God.
Tuesday. Exactly. 3 changes, Brian. Finn, Ronan Hughes, and Daniel McManus come in. How did the 3 of them do? Taking the result aside for a second, how did the 3 of them do?
Yeah, I thought that they were okay. I mean, Tiff did promise he was going to rotate the squad. And it's a hard shout. I see a lot of people online saying, well, why was Dolan dropped? Why was Plank? But I mean, Plank dropped. The young boys, especially Plank, I mean, it's Saturday, and I think a fortnight's time we had Tuesday. It's a very hard schedule for these kids, and especially in heavy parks. It's just, you're going to ruin their career before they're even started. I can remember Fast didn't play Kyle Turner at the start all the time because he's such a young kid. You've got to bring them through. You can't ruin them before they're even 20. So I mean, you got to rotate the squad, and I had no problems. Ronan Hughes is a good midfielder. McManus is capable. The fans are all wanting Etrepont at left back, or most of them. So I mean, I'd no qualms with the changes because when this Saturday, Tuesday, you need to rotate the squad because the same players are going to get absolutely shattered.
I think it'd be fair to say, Lawrence, that if you are looking up the kind of a manager's team talk when they go out, whether it's for the first half or the second half, keep it tight early doors and we get off to the worst possible start.
Yeah, 90 seconds in. Brian and I actually talked about that in the minute or two leading up to kick-off last night. It's fair to say that what you do want against the Dumbarton side, which has won handsomely at the weekend, is to get on top of them right from the start and don't let them get any encouragement. And what do? We promptly allow them encouragement by conceding 90 seconds in. At the time, Mark Durnan headed it home magnificently from a corner from Smith, I think it was. And at the time, I was like, he's unmarked. He got away from Quiggy. He's a big guy. He's a lot bigger than Quig, to be fair. Got away from Quiggy, headed it home handsomely. I do wonder, with hindsight, having watched us in the second half, if there was also an element in which the wind helped that corner swirl into where it was. Doesn't let our defence off the hook. You've got to defend it, but I think that played a part, and it's uphill right from the word go.
We spoke about Mark Weir's save, Brian, from Aaron Quigg in the Edinburgh game. I don't like giving praise to opposition goalkeepers if I can help it, but Aidan Rice with a brilliant save from Dean Cleland again at 1-0. That goes in. Who knows what happens? Ultimately, it doesn't, but fair play to the goalkeeper.
Yeah, when it's no running for you, Tom, it doesn't run for you. And fantastic. This is just after a great night for Rice. I mean, he was boiling, Rice, I'll tell you, because he was absolutely fantastic. And I mean, we said last night, he kept them in the game, actually. It could have been 3 each at half time. It was such. I thought we played okay in the first half and the second half. I see a lot of people thought we didn't play well, but I thought we played okay. I thought there was a lot of, which word I'm looking for, a good signs in the team. For Saturday. I think we've done fine. The last 20 minutes with the game, it petered out. But apart from that, I thought we were okay.
Now, Brian, in terms of the second goal, you were calling for a foul.
Tommy, come on! Did you see it? Did you see the highlights?
I've seen it.
I think, looking at it, I think the referee thinks the Dumbarton player has touched the ball, and Ronan Hughes has went to the ground. But the player has caught Ronan at the ankle and brought him down. It's a clear foul, and the referee's standing looking at it. And he's not gave a foul. I mean, I don't know what he's looking at there, because to me that is an absolute stonewall foul. And Ronan Hughes, I mean, I think some of the players couldn't believe he hadn't gave it. And I mean, they had a bit to do for that second goal. I mean, they broke up the park, and the wee boy Smith put in a good ball into the park, the middle of the goal. I think Max might have been a wee bit disappointed. He just, again, if it's no running for you, he punched it right to a Dumbarton player that they were 2 up. But I thought that was, I don't know what you think, Tommy, but I thought that was poor refereeing.
I don't have opinions, I just host. Lawrence, Brian, to be fair to Brian there, he did kind of highlight this, but Stranraer, it's not as if the foul's not given 6 yards out from the Stranraer goal. Dumbarton have still got a lot to do. Should we defend better from the potential foul to the goal?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. 100% think it was a foul, by the way, but yeah, it was in the Dumbarton half. It was well away from goal. We had all the time in the world to organise our defence, sort that out. Nobody sorted. I think Brian's right. I think it was Smith out on the Dumbarton left. Nobody stopped him getting the cross in. I was on the night slightly disappointed with Max's punch out, and I don't know if that's fair or not, to be fair. But it's always going to be a bit of doubt there when it lands straight at the feet of the attacker, and it just landed nicely for Honeyman, and my God, he couldn't miss from that distance. 100% think that was a foul. Mr. Suter was at most about 3 yards away from it. Didn't bother doing anything about it. But yeah, absolutely, that didn't cost us the goal. Poor defending cost us the goal. Can I just say though, I should really have realised, with hindsight, it's easy on the night, that this was always going to be Dumbarton's night. Soggy pitch, monsoon weather. They had a goalkeeper called Rice and a midfielder called McIntosh. That's what we were up against.
We mentioned you mentioned the goalkeeper there. He denies Aaron Quigg. He denies Darren Lang. At the end of the day, Lawrence, as much as we're praising the goalkeeper, if we don't take these chances, then we're not going to go on and pick up 3 points.
Agree. I would separate them out though. I think the guy was clearly man of the match. We'd realised by pretty much half time, unless something big happened, he was going to be man of the match. There were a couple of wonder saves that aye, you're praising the guy to high heaven for, but there were other ones, the likes of Darren in the second half, he should really have scored. I'm trying to see what other ones I've scribbled down. He produced brilliant save from Cleland. He then denied Quigg. I think Darren needed to score, and the saves that he produced from Plank and Dolan later in the game were for shots on target, but there wasn't enough guile about those shots. They were on target, but they were relatively easier for the keeper. So yeah, he was man of the match. He produced some brilliant saves, but he also produced a lot of saves that actually didn't ask as much of him. And you're right, if you're not going to put some of these not only on target, but with some sort of verve or some sort of guile or some sort of force, you're probably not going to beat him. And bear in mind, the second half, it's easier said than done, but we did have the wind behind us, and I don't really think we were trying shots from any kind of range to try and see if we could trouble them.
I'll come to you on this, Lawrence. You mentioned about the conditions. We've had a few matches like that this season. Annan at Stair Park, East Kilbride away, and then obviously last night. Well, firstly, which of the three was the worst for you?
In terms of conditions, I can't comment on the Queen's Park game because I wasn't at it. It's hard. It's a hard call. East Kilbride away in the cup was absolutely horrendous. Last night was probably worse because of the time of year we're at, because not only were conditions horrendous, the Dumbarton pitch was cut up badly. Not having a go at Dumbarton, I suspect our pitch would have been the same, if not worse, last night, just given the winter that we've had. So last night was probably harder, I would say, purely because the pitch took a pummeling. When we played East Kilbride, you don't have the same underfoot conditions. It was just all up in the air.
Now, Brian, obviously, if we had won last night, I'm sure we would have probably still mentioned what the weather conditions were like, but you would have kind of laughed it off and said, oh, the weather was terrible, but we got 3 points and that's the main thing. Do you think, again, from an entertainment point of view, should consideration be given more to whether it's the wind, the rain, etc., and whether a match should go ahead? As I say, Dumbarton got the 3 points, no complaints about that whatsoever, but it can't be enjoyable for folk travelling to the game, then sitting out for a couple of hours and that, and then you've got the heating on in the car on the way back home, trying to defrost, etc., and you've watched a game that's the main talking point to an extent is the weather.
Yeah, and it's becoming a more common problem. We're getting more rain in this country, and last night was horrific. I think the wind get worse as the night got on. I mean, I think Dumbarton did have a slight advantage with the wind, but I think Stranraer, I think you'd see we no blaming Cap McKnight, but when Cap come on, I think he'd 6 punts up the park, and everyone always know a golfer because he's not very accurate. Everyone, but it must be hard to come onto a park like that, and try and play it forward. But I mean, the conditions were absolutely horrendous. And I think the one against Annan was the worst I've seen this season. I think that game should have been well in doubt. I mean, the wind I think was about 55, 60. I've said it before. There should be a windometer, and put it in the middle of the park. And if it's over a certain speed, we can't play this, guys, because I mean, people are paying what I don't know, 15, 17 quid, and it becomes a farce at times. And that last night was a bit of a farce as well at times. It's a bit of a shame. And yet people's livelihoods are if you're going down to Club 42, that's your livelihoods on the on the line because of bad weather. And I've said it before that I'll go back again to Clyde game when we played them when we were Club 42. I mean, to me that game should never have been played, but I know we landed bottom of the league that day, but I mean, if the wind is the worst thing from you, and I think the players say that, you just cannot control it when it's windy conditions.
I just point out to Brian, it was 18 quid at Spartans midweek
Was it?
last week. It's some of these prices that people are paying for entertainment. Can I also just say that I always think it's bizarre in this country that I've got there's nothing better than a cold winter's frosty night under the floodlights watching a game. They're called off now, so we've decided to start calling games off because the pitch is a bit hard, and you might argue that that's sensible, that you don't want players falling on a hard pitch, but absolutely nothing's done about wind or rain. Brian's right, and actually they make for a far worse game than a slightly frosty pitch does.
I think particularly the wind, that
Aye.
it needs to be kind of proper weather warnings are out urging people not to travel before it seems to actually be considered. Anyway, enough about climate change and other things.
Enough from old Sean Batty and Lanark.
Cammy, before we go on, I think Cosmo told me the yellow warning is okay, but I think if it goes to amber, I think the authorities maybe tell clubs to to go and look or do something, But I think if it's yellow, if it's a yellow weather warning, I don't think anything's done it. I don't think anyway. For what I gather,
I just think there'll be a memo coming out from the SPFL. Do something, Muttley.
I just think that, and particularly where Stranraer is geographically speaking, that all away fans are having to travel a bit of a distance. We'll say that, and obviously some home fans are travelling from a distance as well. That there probably should be more consideration given, because it's not pleasant driving however many miles and your wee car's getting moved from side to side and everything else. And it's all very well kind of saying that, yeah, the weather's not too bad at Stair Park, or it's playable at Stair Park. But as I say, there'll be a lot of people that are travelling big distances and not necessarily taking their life into their own hands. That's a bit dramatic. But they've got to get through some dodgy weather to get to the game.
Cameron, I left Edinburgh at 4:30 last night. Now, ordinarily, there should be no need for me to leave at 4:30, but I finished work at 4:30. Thought I'll head on, get there in plenty of time. Stopped it for 15 minutes for a carry out from a tea, and actually got to Dumbarton's ground at 7:25. The roadworks on the M8 roundabout Renfrew Paisley were utterly horrendous. I think Brian came through them. I think George came through them. I think a hell of a lot of Stranraer fans, and probably a lot of Dumbarton fans, came through them. So there was no account taken, frankly, of fans in the equation whatsoever. It's the league. I don't know about the clubs so much, but certainly the league only worry about can the players and the referee get there. And I remember a conversation with Stranraer Football Club in the it's probably late 80s, early 90s. We were playing Stirling Albion at home, and the just before kick-off, or 11 or 12 in the morning, there was some sort of landslide on the A77 between Girvan and Stranraer, and the road was closed. Ultimately, the game wasn't played, but I found out afterwards the club was in conversation with the league and Stirling Albion about getting the players to Stranraer by train. And I think it fell down because the referee couldn't get to Girvan Station in time. And when I asked the person at the football club at the time I was talking to, what about the fans? There was a sort of silence, as if, what do you mean? And, and I was like, well, actually, presumably Stirling Albion had 30, 40, 50 fans on their way down. Was any thought given to that? Silence. And I think that's still the same. Not having a go at clubs or club officials, but I think that's still the same in general football at our level. If the players can get there and the ref can get there, it's game on.
Before we move on, firstly, want to apologise to anyone that's still watching. They thought this was a football podcast, but we've just discussed the weather and travelling and everything else. We will get back onto the football, I promise. Lawrence spoke to Danny McManus last night. Let's hear what he's got to say as well.
Danny, a funny one tonight. We lost 2-0 against Dumbarton. Just spoke to the manager. He's actually frustrated, but not as much as he was on Saturday. How would you sum up that? Because actually we had loads of possession, loads of chances, but we lost 2-0.
Yeah, we gave away 2 early goals, 2 really preventable goals, again a set piece, and then the second one preventable, and then from that point we're chasing the game. First half we weren't as good, and then second half we were a lot better, got a lot more of the ball, but we just didn't do enough with it, didn't create enough. We put a lot of balls into the box, but just not enough final product.
How difficult was it? I mean, I know it's the same for both sides, but how difficult was it to play conditions tonight, both underfoot and the wind and the rain?
Yeah, it is. It's difficult, but it's the same for both teams, isn't it? Like, they've got the win the first half, and then we've got it the second half, so it's the same. Obviously, the pitch kind of cut up a bit soft in the middle, but as I said, same for both teams.
Same for both teams. We're into double figures for corners, but yet still, I guess it's also fair to say we came up against a keeper tonight who was in pretty much inspired form.
Yeah, definitely. He had a great game. Made a lot of good saves, key moments in the game as well. If the Lange early chance in the second half, we score that, we're right back in the game. There's a few that he makes, but obviously we need to just take our chances. And we've got 11 corners, there wasn't too many great balls into the box. Obviously the wind doesn't help, but needs to be better.
And it's pretty obvious before the end, and I don't blame them. Dumbarton were 2-0 up where they are in the league. They were sitting in. I'm guessing that makes it harder to play.
Yeah, definitely credit to them as well, because they defended really well. They done what they had to do to win the game, and obviously we've not done enough.
How do you feel coming off that in terms of physically? How's your season going?
You know, I've been struggling with a few injuries, but I'm just having to manage it and play through them. But again, it's another game, isn't it? But we just need to get back winning. Hopefully get back to winning ways next week.
Doesn't it get any easier? The league leaders East Kilbride at home on Saturday?
No, definitely, but we've already beaten twice this season, so it's not as if it's a formality. We're going to give it everything we can and see where we end up.
Let's see if we can do it again then. Thanks very much for speaking to us, Danny.
Cheers, thank you.
Brian, before we go on to East Kilbride itself, 3 defeats in a row. I think that's matching our worst run in the league this season. $1 million question. What do we need to do to get back on the right track?
Well, we're going through one of them spells that every club goes through every season. You know, I mean, things were, when we had a great run, I think it was 12 games undefeated in the league. You know, things were maybe going for us, you know, but, you know, you go back to the Elgin game, you know, fine lines, you know, we score, go 2 up. Edinburgh City was probably a one-off, you know. I think we're going to concede 4 goals every game, and last night I thought we played all great. So it's been a mixing match. I don't think it's too much wrong. You know, I think we will get back to what form we showed. You know, just about a month ago. You know, I mean, we're absolutely fine. You know, it's been. I must admit, I thought the next 3 games when we played, no, the last 3 games we played, I thought 7 points was possible. We ended up with 0, so which is you know, put us in a precarious position again for the playoff place. But I was saying last night, I don't know, Cammy, you know the stats, but the lowest points for a playoff place must be, you know, in danger this season. That's 33 points to now I've got. That's I'm going to maths again. You know, I mean, it's very, very low, you know, for 27 games. You know, and you're looking at, I think you're looking at about 48 points for a playoff place. I really do. You know, I think if some teams gets 15 points in the final quarter, I think they'll qualify for the playoffs. And but we've got to just hope Stranraer are back onto form. I think they've got a great chance to show it on Saturday. We seem to play well against East Kilbride. The last twice we beat them. And I mean, if there's any game you're going to be up for, it's against the league leaders. So hopefully we can back on to the horse on Saturday.
Well, I'll come to you in a second, Lawrence.
I want to point out, very top of my page there, it's all Brian Martin's fault. He told us after the Elgin game we had 2 easy fixtures coming up.
I don't think I said easy, right? You know,
Easier then.
I'll come to you in a second, Lawrence, in terms of what I just asked Brian there. But you mentioned, Brian, in terms of the lowest number of points needed for a playoff place. And you hear this on a regular basis in terms of the standard. Do you think it's a poor League Two this season and that's why you need a lower figure to reach the playoffs? Or do you just think it's a very competitive League Two?
Well, we say it every week, don't we? I mean, every week can beat everybody else. You know, so I mean, you're going to get these. I mean, I think there's been a lot of draws in League Two this season. You know, I mean, we've drawn a lot, Clyde have drawn a lot. You know, so I mean, the teams are quite evenly matched. There's some teams I don't think, you know, are that great, but they've managed to accumulate the points. You know, so I mean, they must be doing something right. But you know, as I say, I mean, I think it was Fast said to me, I mean, if you get about 13.25 points per quarter, you're almost certain to get into the playoffs. Well, that's Stranraer on what is it, 11 points a quarter? So I mean, we are lower than what we should be, you know. But I suppose if you get 15 points in the last quarter, that's 12 points, a quarter, which is getting near the 13 point, whatever it is. But I'd love to know what the lowest points total is for the the playoff play. I think last season, I think it was about 53 points, was it? I
I
don't
think it was
know.
low 50s, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, a team could go on a run, but I don't think they will. I think, it's just the team who gets into the best position in these final 9 games. I think, obviously Edinburgh and Dumbarton, I think that their own battle for bottom place, and they're not going to win 6 and 7 games, but anywhere from, and Clyde are not at the woods. I don't think Clyde are at the woods either. They're in 41, and they've not been in great form, so anything can happen in this league.
Just before I come to you, Lawrence, I think I can speak for all three of us when there's been many a time I've been driving up the A77 celebrating a 0.25 points after a game. Many a time. Um, Lawrence, what about yourself? Draws, quality, low standard? Where do you sit on that one?
I still come back to my old favourite argument. I am not in favour of scrapping that Club 42. I'm quite happy that there needs to be movement in the pyramid, but I think the introduction of that in such a small division has had a huge impact on the way football is played. Everybody is terrified of dropping into Club 42, and I think it's leading to scrappier and scrappier football. It's Is it too easy to say it's leading to a kind of leveling out of teams? What I will say though is, I was saying to Brian last night, the way we're going in this league, you could end up with every team from about third or fourth place down to eighth on the same number of points on the last Saturday of the season. And you win a game, you're in the playoffs. You lose a game, you're eighth or ninth. I think the introduction of the relegation or the possible relegation has made a big difference on the style of football, if not the standard of football. Still in favour of the whole Club 42, Lowland, Highland, whatever. I just feel that it would work better if it was a 16-team league instead of a 10-team league. Then you could actually have automatic relegation and people wouldn't blink too much at it. I kind of don't agree with Brian. I think Clyde are probably, given the inconsistency of the teams from fourth down, including ourselves, I think Clyde, unless they have an absolute disaster, they're probably a shoe-in for third place. I don't think they'll get any higher than that. And given the results last night and on Saturday, I don't think we are concerned about Club 42. Too many teams would have to overtake us for that. But I wouldn't rule a Dumbarton or an Edinburgh, one of them, from climbing up the table a bit. I doubt very much if both of them will.
Obviously, both of you have seen Stranraer at the last 3 games, and as we've touched on, it's been 3 defeats. I'll stick with yourself first of all, Lawrence. Obviously, wins, you get more confident, you get that momentum behind you. Last night, did you see any suggestion, any indication of a team that was perhaps low in confidence on the back of a couple of bad results?
Not really. Brian and I talked about it during the first half when it was 2-0 down, and we were talking about it from the point of view that we're hoping the players don't lose heart here because this game is still there. And actually, given the fact that we got into double figures in corners, and it was obvious to Brian and myself when we got to about 10 minutes left, this isn't happening. But so now we're still getting corners right up until the bitter end. We just ran out of time, ran out of ideas. It's fair to say, I think at one point I commented, we've pretty much tried everything and it's just not happening tonight. So I didn't see any lessening in confidence. I did wonder after the 2 defeats if it's something that goes on in players' minds suddenly, because it's still the same players that we've had all season. It's the same squad that about 4 or 5 weeks ago we were praising to high heavens. We were saying we've got a squad of 20 odd, we could use them all. So it's what I said after Saturday. You don't suddenly go from 11 unbeaten, albeit a number of them were draws, to being a rubbish set of players. You really don't. Equally, if you're Dumbarton, you don't go from being rank rotten, to use one expression, to suddenly being world beaters. But they've won 2 in a row. And as you alluded to, Cameron, losing 2 can make your head go a wee bit, have a wobble. Winning 2 can suddenly make you think, this is fine, no problem. So I think there probably is something going on in terms of managing the players' emotions, their mentality. I've got plenty of faith in the coaching side that we've got. Look at what they did to this squad after that first quarter, when frankly we were staring sort of Club 42 possibility in the face again. So no, I've got every faith that they can turn it around. We need a bit of luck. We need, well, undoubtedly need to tweak things on the pitch in terms of trying things, in terms of getting ideas right. But nah, I think we'll be fine. The other thing I would point out, and I noticed Tiff, a clearly very frustrated Tiff at Meadowbank on Saturday. And he wasn't the same last night, to be fair. But on Saturday, he was reminding everybody that pre-season we were favourites to be 10th in this league. You know, we're sitting fourth, and I come back to what I said a few weeks ago. I'm desperate for us to be in the promotion playoffs. But actually, if you told me at the start of the season we finished 6th or 7th, I would have thought that's a good progress. The trouble is now we've been fourth for a few weeks, and we're all expecting to stay fourth. That's the difficulty that the managers and the players have got.
Would you echo what Lawrence said there, Brian, in terms of, despite the defeats, the team's still got their heads up, still looking confident?
I think, I mean, I mentioned it before, but the last minute goal against Elgin, you know, I think kind of rocked us a wee bit, you know, and our forms maybe been the same since that next two games. But I mean, the team are still, I mean, I thought last night, I'll repeat myself, I thought we were okay last night. You know, I mean, things just didn't go our way, but I thought, you know, passing wise and, you know, going forward with plenty of confidence. I met a couple of players going home. I nipped into the garage for a meal deal. And by the way, I got a tuna and sweet corn. I think they'd put a whole can of pepper on the tuna and sweet corn. It's the most bitterest tuna and sweet corn sandwich I've ever tasted.
You should name and shame the garage, Brian.
I got a Kit Kat chunky bar, which made up for it. You know, it was £6 for a meal deal, so I was quite happy. But I met two players coming for the game, and I mean, they're still full of confidence. You know, I mean, they mentioned, you know, I mean, in the dressing room was fine. You know, I'm not saying fine, they get beat, but I mean, still plenty of confidence in the dressing room. You know, and they're absolutely desperate to get that fourth place. You know, and as Lawrence says, I mean, 6th or 7th would be good, but I mean, we've been so long in fourth place. I think we'd be all disappointed if we didn't qualify now and get into them playoffs. But as far as the team's concerned, I've absolutely no qualms. You know, going into this final 9 games, they'll get their best shot. You know, and once things start going for us again, I'm quite sure we'll be okay.
One thing, Lawrence, do you think, as of late, we've maybe lost that clinical edge? Looking at it since the turn of the year, 11 games played, 12 goals scored. So if we're conceding one in that situation, we're probably not winning a game. We're getting a draw at best. As I say, it's almost a goal per game. Darren and Dean lead the way with 3 goals apiece. Finn, Ronan Hughes, James Dolan, Aaron Quigg, Joe McGrath, and Dominic Plank for the others. Are we not taking chances at the same rate as perhaps we were previously?
I think if you ask Lewis Reid, he would say, yeah, that he points out to us that the guys up top need to be scoring goals. To be fair to Big Lewis, he's also refreshingly honest in that we shouldn't be letting this goal in, we shouldn't be letting that goal in. I think it's a bit of both. I think you're right, we're not scoring as readily as we were in that little spell, you know, round about, I don't know, Christmas, New Year, round about, whenever we're in the unbeaten spell, we're not scoring the goals quite as readily, and equally we're letting in. So, you know, last night's second minute corner, Brian said to me, I thought we'd sorted this problem with the corners out. And I'm not saying the problem with the corners is back, but you know what he was referring to from the first part of the season. So, you know, if you let in, you know, we let in a couple of goals last night which were defendable. We let in at least a couple of the goals on Saturday which were defendable. And then we missed a bucket load of chances last night and a few on Saturday. So I think it's a bit of both, to be honest.
We had mentioned Robbie Foster earlier, Brian, in terms of him we're seeing him out running. I think it's been said if we see Robbie before the end of the season, that'd be absolutely brilliant. And I've said before, really hope that we do. Best of luck to him. We mentioned Jordan Stewart is going to be suspended for this coming weekend. I don't know if either of you have heard any update in terms of Ryan Edgar or Evan Dunn, obviously, who's missed the last couple of games.
I've not heard a thing about Ryan Edgar. I spoke to Evan Dunn on Saturday. He thought he'd be back for Tuesday night, but I don't think the gals were too happy. Hopefully we're back on Saturday. You know, he's got a big kicker. You know, he's got a big black eye from Saturday. Well, not as for the previous game. You know, he did get a bit of a bad eye, but hopefully he'll be back on Saturday. I mean, Doherty was okay last night, but I think he misses presence in that defence. You know, big guy. You know, he might have prevented that goal on Saturday. Might know, you don't know, but no, I've never heard a thing about Ryan Edgar. I don't know anything about Ryan, but hopefully Evan Dunn might be back on Saturday.
Do you anticipate, obviously, Brian, we usually come to you with this. Do you anticipate any more kind of shuffling off the pack, as it were, come Saturday?
I think
Yeah.
there'll be a couple of changes. I think there will be a couple of changes because one we get beat again, but I can't see too many. You've got to freshen up again. As I say, I mean East Kilbride were sitting with the feet up, or they've been training right enough last night, but they've not had a game. You know, we've had a right hard game. So I mean, you've got to give the players a chance. You know, I mean, they're part-time players. You know, I mean, you've got to get kind of a bit of leeway. And I'm quite sure it'll be another heavy pitch, and I'm quite sure there'll be a couple of changes just to freshen things up. But as I say, I mean, we've played well against East Kilbride the last twice. In fact, one of the best performances of the season was when we beat them at K Park the last time we played them there. We beat them 2-0. So, you know, if we get that level of performance, you know, we'll be absolutely fine.
We've played them 4 times this season, Lawrence, 2 wins apiece. It'd probably be fair to say we're not going to get a dull 0-0. And I'll say now, if we do, then you can totally blame me for that. I'll take that on my shoulders, not a problem. But anticipating an exciting and probably an attacking game, Lawrence.
I would think so. I was going to say, actually, I would arguably be okay with a 0-0 now, but I imagine a lot of Stranraer fans would not agree with me. We expect to win at home. We expect to take the game to the opposition. We expect to be fourth now, frankly. And again, that's the difficulty that the players and the manager have set themselves. People are expecting them to maintain that now. So they've got to come out and try and do that. Yeah, the games against East Kilbride this season have all been exciting. I think we felt the first game at K Park we were unfortunate not to get something from it. Equally, I think John Robertson basically beat us in the first game at what is now the Lime Stadium. We then did well in the cup against them. And as Brian said, I think our best performance of the season was the second league game up at K Park. Yeah, I think it'll be exciting. They've got a good set of players. We've got a good squad. And I think basically because of the mixture of players we've got and they've got, I think a lot of them know each other.
Yeah.
The management teams know each other. And I think that sets it up for quite an interesting battle, an interesting, intriguing, if you like, battle.
Coming into the game, Brian, I think I'm right in saying East Kilbride, 7 wins in a row on the back of losing to us and Spartans. They're very much a team in form just now.
Well, I'm not going to be the same as the assistant manager at Elgin City after the game. I don't know whether you've seen the interview or not, but he couldn't have been any more gusher over East Kilbride. He almost said in an interview, we know we couldn't have beat them. They dropped Russell Dingwall and Mark Gallagher for that game on Saturday. That worked out well because they get beat last night at Annan. So, I mean, I don't know, you go and watch it, Cam, if you've not seen it. It's one of the most, I think, craziest interviews I've ever seen. The guy all he did was compliment East Kilbride. That's all he done in the interview. You know, we can't do this, we can't do that. You know, I mean, I think if East Kilbride were to play Elgin in the playoffs, they would have huge psychological advantage because Elgin say we can't beat East Kilbride. You know, so I love it gushy about East Kilbride. I mean, it'll be a slick moving 4G they're going to play on Saturday. You know, so I mean, it's going to be they're going to be doing to a grass pitch will be muddy. You know, and I think it'll be a cracker, honestly, do. And we seem to raise our game against East Kilbride. We've had really great games against them this season, even though they beat us twice. But they've been really good games. And one thing about East Kilbride, they do give you chances. You know, they give you, and I agree with you. It won't be a boring nothing each draw, I can assure you. You know, it'll be a really good, entertaining game. And as Tiff said last night, really looking forward to it as we seem to play well against them.
Nothing to do
Really?
with Stranraer, but the assistant manager at Elgin was 100% right, Brian. They played them 5 times this season, and East Kilbride have beaten them 5 times, so they can't beat them.
I'm really looking forward to George stitching us up next week and the start of the podcast being, I can't see it being a 0-0. I can't see it being a 0-0 and the game finishing 0-0. I know that we're into that kind of final straight now, and I think I'm right in saying East Kilbride have played a game more than Spartans, Lawrence. But does it feel a little bit like East Kilbride are now kind of starting to motor their way towards that League Two title?
I think it probably depends on what Spartans do with that game in hand. But my money's now on East Kilbride, Cameron. I think they will win the league. I was interested at the start of the season. I think a lot of us, me included, said, "Oh, they're bound to win it. They'll spend a fortune." By the way, Spartans have got a big budget as well. I thought East Kilbride would win it with that big budget. They've had their moments during the season. They had that little spell when they were slipping back the way, but fair credit to Mick Kennedy, he's got them back up there. They're on a seven, never mind 7 unbeaten, 7 wins in a row. So if we get anything from them on Saturday, they won't be happy, and hopefully we will.
Despite that win and run, and I'll come to both of you. I'll stick with yourself, Lawrence, first of all. I imagine, as I said, we're at home. We've shown what we can do against them this season. You, the team, myself, we all go with confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. You asked the question about the players' heads being down. No matter what the players are thinking post-match at Meadowbank, no matter what they're thinking post-match up at the Rock, they'll be going in on Saturday wanting to put one over on the league leaders. So we'll go in confidently. It might or it might not happen, but actually, like Brian said, I've got a wee feeling about this game. We've played well against them this season. We'll go and give it a real go, and I think it will be a cracker.
You go along with that, Brian. Head to Stair Park in a confident mood.
Oh, absolutely. You've got to take on. I mean, you can't go in with zero confidence. I mean, I know we've lost our last 3 and they've won their last 7, but I mean, it's the ingredients for a wee bit of shock. And I think I echo Lawrence. I think it'll be a really good game, and if we can keep compact first 10, 15 minutes, and maybe grow into the game or snatch an early goal, I think it's get the ingredients of being a really good game.
So there you have it, folks. If you can get along to Lime Stadium at Stair Park, we guarantee it won't be a 0-0. Probably. Thanks for watching.